Aloha aina, ano ai, velina kako. Welcome to Free Hawaii News, brought to you by the Koani Foundation, presenting Hawaiian perspectives on a broad range of topics and issues affecting the Hawaiian Islands, the Pacific, and the world. Your hosts for Free Hawaii News are Leon Kaulahau-Siu, musician, composer, diplomat, and political analyst, and Hinaleimoana Wong, Kumu filmmaker, cultural and Hawaiian language preservationist, and community leader. And now, Free Hawaii News.
Ano ai ke aloha ia kākoa, pauloa e ko Hawaii nei pai aina puni. Kipa mai, launa mai, mahalo anui no ko kākou hui ana o wau no keia o Kumuhina.
Aloha, my name is Leon Kaulahau-Siu, and we welcome you to this episode of Free Hawaii News. After much protest by West Maui residents, the state of Hawaii reopened West Maui once again to tourism on October 8th. Thousands of West Maui residents pleaded with Josh Green, the Josh Green administration, to give residents more time to grieve and recover from this enormous tragedy.
Many West Maui and Lahaina residents, along with Hawaii's news media, posted videos on social media showing that tensions and emotions were running high about the fires, with residents losing everything and being displaced, and finally what they felt was a push to reopen Lahaina and the west side before they were ready. We now want to share with you a few of those short, heartfelt videos.
With the reopening of West Maui to tourism less than a week away, some Lahaina fire survivors are making a last-ditch effort to delay the return of visitors.
How can you expect those people that lost everything, lost loved ones, lost their homes, lost all those mementos in those homes? You know, we lost our entire town. How can you expect them to go back to work serving Mai Tais?
Governor Josh Green has been adamant about bringing back tourists to West Maui to speed the island's economic recovery and ensure people can make ends meet.
The appeal I'm making to everyone is come and help us heal.
But some residents say it's not about money.
Money is not the only thing to us right now. It's our mental health and it's our well-being that is being put in jeopardy by opening West Maui again.
Animosity is growing as displaced residents are moved from hotel to make way for guests, and others scramble to find long-term housing.
Just a very volatile situation for them.
That could cause somebody that is full of emotion right now, full of rage and anger because of the situation we put in, to maybe act on that. And we already lost too much people. We don't need to lose any more people, you know.
So Leon, in that clip that we just watched, and we see brother from Maui and we hear his thoughts, I can't help but really see his perspective and how true that is. You know, one never knows how each and every one will be reacting and recovering. And somebody could approach, so a tourist can approach and innocuous, no ill intent, but you don't know what kind of day they might be having. The destruction, death, and loss is such that if I know how I feel when I lost one of the most important people in my life, I can't imagine losing the life and livelihood of the home, plus people. And anything could be a trigger. Our people are going to be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years out. We're not residents of Maui, but I feel it trying to talk about it because I know about that just losing someone important to me.
It is going to take a lot of time to make this right again, to make it, and I don't know if it'll ever be right. I don't think it'll ever be pono, but to really just be able to deal with it, it's going to take some time. We're going to listen to a few other people respond to it.
We're not here to merely speak on behalf of our people. We're here because we are our people. Every tear they've shed, every sigh of despair, every quiet moment of reflection, they resonate with us. We are here as the voice of our people. The weight of recent events still burden our shoulders, and our souls ache with grief. Yet, amidst this profound pain, we're being urged to march forward, even as our wounds remain open. We urgently ask for understanding and patience to allow survivors more time to grieve. Our community, though resilient, is raw. While the ashes may have settled, our hearts still ache, trying to find solace and make sense of this devastation. It has been made clear time and time again that we are not mentally nor emotionally ready to welcome and serve our visitors. Not yet. Our grief is still too fresh and our losses too profound. We have always prided ourselves in that aloha spirit, right? Welcoming visitors with open arms. But right now, our arms are wrapped firmly around our families and the little bit of hope we have left. Businesses, residents, and even the visitors who cherish our islands could face the ripple effects of this rush. And to expect our grief-stricken residents to serve and cater to others, it's not just a question of capability, it's a matter of ethics. To everyone listening, we understand the economic implications, the world's eagerness to experience the magic of Lahaina once more. But we implore you, let Lahaina heal. Let our spirits find peace. Let's move forward, but only when we're truly ready. We have created this petition to postpone the opening of West Maui upcoming October 8th date. We'll be presenting it to the governor's office. Thousands of signatures of people who agree that the opening is coming way too soon. I'd like to welcome all of our West Maui residents who have come here today to go unified to his office to present this petition. Hi, we have our petition here we'd like to present to the governor. Is he in office today?
Good afternoon. My name is Bonali. I am the Governor's Director of Constituent Services, and I'm here to accept the petition.
Okay.
And lots of box.
Are we presenting the green? Or?
It's fine. He's not going to come out.
He is actually not here today. He's outside working, but I will make sure that is delivered to him today. Thank you. You accepted this on behalf of the governor. We'll make sure to hand it over to him today. Thank you.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Every day I wonder if the Red Cross can kick me out. I did everything. I followed FEMA, I followed Red Cross. I still have no housing. I don't know where I'm going. There is no rentals that I can afford. I gotta pay my mortgage. I gotta pay a rental that's doubled in the last 3 weeks.
Because right now we're being told we got 30 days. That spikes your anxiety. It stops the healing process. It's hard to be a good parent, a good spouse, a good friend when you think in 30 days you're about to get displaced.
My granddaughter, Isabella, had to escape the inferno of that fire when her mom was 9 months pregnant. My grandson, Xavier, was born 10 days after the fire. He has lived in 3 different places. He's got 2 more days at his current location, and he has to move again. That will be place number 4. He is a month old.
What did you think of this video of the town hall where many different people were sharing their thoughts?
Well, it was very enlightening because it brings it really down to earth, or down to the facts. How do we move on with this, especially if we're being faced with having to survive, and just with everyday things like where do we live, and how long can we stay here, and how many times do we have to move? And this is very unsettling because on top of the great loss that they've suffered, every day is a challenge, and every day is a trial just to get through. And I'm amazed that they're still, that they're not as, didn't see as anger as I would probably be very angry in this situation. But they simply were saying that this is very difficult, and it is getting on top of the suffering they already they went through. Now they're being challenged every day with trying to live their lives and trying to move on. Very difficult.
And so, one of the things that really strikes me is the level of support that any community and any individual would need is not had. let's take the example of the fellow who was talking about, I gotta pay a mortgage and I have to pay a rent that just doubled. To me, this tells me that it's predatory.
Yes.
It's not help. It's just predation upon our people. And there's so many other things, you know, stability. So lack of stability, lack of continuity, lack of connectivity of services and synchronicity of support, and just lack of, even though there was support coming in, if you have different things coming in and it's not all complementing each other, it's actually possibly creating a bigger mess. And our people are still going to be expected to worry about getting the economy back up. I don't think any country, any people, any community's economy will be able to properly stand up if they themselves are not mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, as well as physically, ready to do it.
Let's look at another video.
Okay.
My name is Liza Tobias. I live at 1421 Kumu Street. And we was there that night. We was just waiting because me and my boyfriend was just walking up and down the road, and we were asking everybody, "Are you guys gonna leave? What do you think? Like, what should we do? What should we do?" And they're like, "Well, I don't know. If the wind don't change, you know, if it just keeps blowing the other way, maybe we'll be fine." So there's folks there that were getting ready to leave, and then there was me and my dad, and he didn't believe that it was gonna get bad. He didn't believe that the wind was gonna change. He didn't think that it was gonna get my house. He didn't think. He thought it was probably just another brush fire. And then finally, when the police came and told us to evacuate, I begged my dad, "Please come with me." And he said, "No, I don't believe. I don't think it's gonna hit the house." So I finally left with my boyfriend and my 2 cats. But before I left, I told my dad, like, at least keep the family dog with you. Because all the Filipinos out there, if you guys own one dog, you usually keep them outside, yeah? Like one guard dog. And I asked him, all his life he lived outside, but maybe on this day, can you keep him with you? To maybe have him as your last company. Just in case the worst happens. And look, the worst happened. I didn't think he would go. I didn't think. Later on to find out that he stayed. He didn't leave. Even though we were evacuated, he didn't want to go because he fought so hard for that house. He worked so hard, so many years just to own that house.
I can't even begin to fathom the emotions and the sentiments of what we saw from this one family and this young woman speaking about her and her boyfriend and walking up and down, asking what they're going to do and faced with the decision, do you go, do you stay, do you go, do you stay? And then when you decide to go, that your parent won't leave. And a lot of our island parents are like that, and we can't end up forcing them, and they'll insist to stay. And literally, you would have to pick them up and forcibly remove them from the house, and they weren't going to do that. And they said goodbye to their father, literally. We comment about Pacific Way in our segments here at Free Hawaii News. So this is a great segue to talk about what is the Pacific Island Way. Our people in political and economic power, for as much as some, not all, but for as much as some might profess to understand and sympathize and to know, I don't think they really understand what Pacific Island Way is. You would live and die for the causes that you availed yourself to. This particular man worked so hard to own something because He felt that that was his. Hell or high water, he's going to be there and that's it. If you know the Pacific heart and the Pacific mind and the Pacific spirit, it's immovable. And that's just the way it is. It's part of what makes us great as a people. But the bittersweet is that that's now what happens. The Pacific way I know is to offer our aloha. So we say aloha to everyone who suffered loss of family, loss of friend, loss of pets, loss of material things, even though, for some material things don't mean much, but for some material things are everything. People have lost homes and livelihoods. And when you lose that much, sometimes you're just going to feel that there's nothing more to live for. Mm-hmm. So we send our aloha out to each and every one of you. We send our voice of, hopefully this small voice of aloha and perhaps a pule.
Aye.
We send this pule out to you and pray that you will be well. Pule kao I kia kua. Kia kua manalo e loko kalani. Eia no maua. Ma Free Hawaii News e pule nei ia oe e kia kua me komako noi haa na ia oe olu olu. Kau mai ko lima aloha. Kau mai ko lima ho'ona. Kau mai ko lima ho'ola. Maluno. O nā ohana pauloa. I pilikia nui ai I keia. Po pilikia nui keia mea hihia nui. Ke olu olu mai oe kia kua. La paau ae I nā po ea pau. I nā eha eha pau. Ka eha eha kana au. Ka eha eha kana noo. Me nā pirikia pau. Olu olu e kia kua. E ho pono pono. Ho ola. La paau ae. Ho mai ka I ho. Kukulu ho no ko mako. Mau Kanaka noho nei ka aina. Olu olu. Launa mai me lako. Noho puno me lako. Ho oi kaika mai a lako. Kiai ala kai. Malama mai kai mai a lako. I ko lako noho ana. E hui kala mai no nā lawe hala ana no maka au au. E hapai no I ko mako no me ko mako na au. Ho holo mua. I nau e aku no mako I mua. I pule no mako no ko poe. I ho I aku. Me nā kupuna e noho ai. Pule no lako. I ko lako ho I ana. I ko au puni lani. O ka noho ana. Mahalo anu I a oe kia kua. Ko ki papono mai I a lako. Ka malama mai ka poe e waiho nei maka aina. Mahalo anu I kono ka launa ana mai. Me maawa nei I loko o ke iahi ahi nei. Mahalo anu I a oe kia kua I a mau mea. Ko mahako leo ho mai ka I mili lani ho nani aki a oe. Me ka pule ani ka pule pualu. Pulala ka ia ka haku makau kau a pule. E ko mako makoi loko kalani. E ho ano ia ko inoa. E hiki mai ko au puni. E maalama ia ko make mako honua nei. E like me e maalama ia makalani la. E haawi mai a mako I keia la. I aina mako no nei a la. E kala mai ho I a mako I ka mako lawe hala ana. Me mako e kala nei ka poe I lawe hala I ka mako. Mai ho oku o ia mako I ka ho wale I a mai. He ho pakele no na ia mako I ka ino no ka mea no ke au puni. A me ka mana, a me ka ho nani ia a maulo aku. Amen.
Emotions are still running high on West Maui with the area reopening to tourists last month. Many residents have not had nearly enough time to mentally and emotionally recover from the fires, and now they are back at work, forced to interact with tourists who want to hear their stories of loss and tragedy when few residents are actually ready to discuss what they went through. To tell us more, we go now to Maui's west side, where resident Vicky Kaluna Palafox is standing by.
Aloha mai kawa e Vicky.
Aloha, Hina. So wonderful to see you again.
Tell us about your thoughts on the recovery and how things are coming along overall.
The recovery that's going on in Lahaina is going pretty well. A lot of ohanas are returning back, reclaiming whatever they can. Everybody trying to work in harmony. A lot of sadness, of course, because of loss. But other than that, everything is working. They're also working with Apkula families too, the cultural monitors. So everything is moving along as well as it can be.
How well are local residents, yourself and others, handling the aftermath of this and interacting with tourists at this point?
There's a lot of sadness, a lot of irritation, a lot of disrespect, and a lot of heartaches because of the things that come with tourists that expects their money's worth. We have had my nieces that works up front desk with challenges of questions that still hit home, and they would have to leave their post to go behind and allow someone else to take care of the guests. Driving through communities such as Hawaiian Homes, when there's signs already posted up front, residents only, show us that they come in with no respect. There is nothing in Lahaina, nothing. There is much on the east side. Repetitious questions that if you really focus and see for yourself, you can know why these services are not here in Lahaina. They are offered on all parts of Maui, but not in Lahaina. They are still healing. Everyone is still healing and trying to give their best. But their best that they have does not go to commerce. It goes to our families and into our communities first. So what tourists are expected to pay for here in Lahaina, you will not get your money's worth.
Do you feel that West Side residents are even ready to tell their stories to strangers and the world yet, or perhaps not?
Not individually, and really not yet. We have had funerals that were going on for a couple weeks now, and the process of that takes a lot of time because of the stories that come with that also. The time Lahaina is ready is when they will make the appointments. They will call out and they will call and ask for the help of others to relay the truancy of Lahaina and the things that really are upon them on their time and not on others.
We've heard that West Side fire survivors are getting it from both ends, at home and at work. If they still have a home, reminding them of their loss, and also then at work, where tourists and visitors want to hear what it was like going through such a huge tragedy.
This subject matter to some people becomes a circus. They treat it as a circus. This is not. This is real. These are people's lives we're talking about. We need to really, and we've spoken of this from August 9th and on, you need to respect the community. You need to respect the families, because what you need is positive healing. When you force someone to speak of something that they are not ready to speak about, you will get negativity. But if you wait until their hearts have softened and they have understood and have accepted the things around them, it makes more positively reinforcement of the connection of acceptance. wait to accept loss, as big of a loss as Lahaina has been through, will take time. The repair will take 2 years. The memories of what happened is forever. Do not force the things upon the people of Lahaina. They are very loving, caring people. And right now, their main focus is healing. By bringing all these other things that does not make the proper kini poi, we're only going to get the things that you do not want to hear. Be patient and allow them. Wait until they offer the bowl of poi. Then you would know and hear all the truancy, the aloha, and exactly where the help is needed. Be patient with them. Be respectful of them. And always lend an ear, lend a hand, and be quiet.
Are tourists asking our residents and our people about these things? And are they perhaps becoming triggers which bring everything back to the minds and hearts of our local residents, causing them to relive their personal tragedy?
Yes, that affects and brings out all that evening of August 8th. And what really needs to happen here is a slow healing, because it's so vivid. Even a small little question, how are you today? My answer would be, I am still hurting. I've lost so much. And this is what you will get from them. This holds back the answers that you or I am looking for from them. How can I truly, truly help you? How can I help you and your family to move forward? Try to ask other questions that doesn't touch the home base as much. Because for me, even answering these questions, already I can see the flames. I can see the aunties crying. I can see the kupuna wahine walking down Lahaina Luna Road with fire on both sides. It is a still sensitive conversation, and actually to be silent and allowing them to tell you their stories, what hurts them, would be more sufficient and helpful if you hear it from them.
What are some of the things that residents, your neighbors, friends, what did they tell you about the emotional toll for them by tourists inquiring about their lives and what happened?
It hurts because in our culture, we have this word called maha'oi. Maha'oi is to be nosy. And in our culture, that is not part. To be nosy is to ask of personal things that belong to us. We are very protective of the things that belong to us. We share only the things that can be shared. And there's certain things that we share only to certain people. So this is a very sensitive area here. Like speaking to you, if you ask me how much members of your family burnt in the fire, which that was one of the questions asked, no answer will be given. Only a facial expression of negativity. And prayerfully, the language that comes out of that individual's leo is pleasing unto your ears. So be sensitive on the questions that you ask, because the answer that you might get back from them might not be what you want to hear.
Many survivors of the fire have been in temporary hotel lodgings. Is everyone being displaced to make way for arriving tourists?
I had a cousin, and he was so worried because he has no place to go. And he took a few steps. I am so proud of him. Born on the Big Island, transferred here onto Maui because this is a loving island and the work that he does. Loving the people of Lahaina for all the years that he has lived there. And he does what he does in Lahaina, not only for himself, but first, he always tells me, for our people. So yes, we have known much. I've known couple that are just tired of being scared how long they need to, before they need to leave the hotel. They have moved off island. They literally moved off island. Is this what we want for our people? To move off island? No, not at all. Our lives shouldn't change. Not at all. I prayerfully hope that those families of Lahaina that moved away to the Big Island and to Oahu, and some to Vegas too, or some they return back to Lahaina, to their home. There's some families I know of that are just tired of, when the letter is going to be slid under their door. When is that not going to come? So they're not even sleeping well. They're sleeping on the edge. They're walking on glass. I don't know how anybody can heal that way. I don't know how anybody can grasp themselves with the worry part of losing the shelter and only shelter that they have over their head. I'm going to share something with you. In old Hawaii, before in Lahaina, when all the whaler ships came with their many men coming in for different things, they never had houses to stay in. They never had no place to eat. They never had fresh water that they brought off of their ships to share with us. We, Kanaka Maole, pure, loving, and aloha people, fed them, gave them fresh waters, and then they took advantage of us. They took advantage of our caringness for people. They took advantage of us because we had respect, much, for people. Kanakas would give you their last bowl of poi to eat because they knew that they could refill that bowl of poi anytime that they needed. But when you came off that ship, you had nothing to eat. We fed you. That's how you survived the waters. And that's how you were able to go back home, because Hawaii fed you.
At this point, what would you say are the people's views towards the future?
We stand strong that we will be the heirs in Lahaina to continue the livelihood of truly what Lahaina is. The generation of families that are still here will never give up. The generation of families that live here will always fight for what is right, for the livelihood of the people of Lahaina.
Are the survivors of the fire and this tragedy talking about relocating outside of Hawaii, or perhaps are most people planning to stay?
A lot of them are planning to move home to other islands. Las Vegas looking really nicer now because of the things that are offered there in Las Vegas, opportunities. They don't have to face these things anymore, but they still help as much as Las Vegas can for us here in Lahaina. But there's no housing. And I have offered up my property. It is Kuleana land. It is in Lahaina. It is in Ukumehame. And I'm willing to put temporary homes on my property and allow our people to come and stay. Allow them to come home. And you can see how Lahaina will heal so fast. Because these are the children of the land. They know from their tutu's time what was there. They knew through their parents' time what was. They have seen with their own eyes happiness within the valleys, cleanliness of our waters, the ocean filled with i'a. The lands are filled with taro and banana and ulu. Malu ulu olele. You need to allow the Kuleana families to go home. You need to remove the tax map key that do not belong to us. Allow the rivers to flow back to Moku'ula, Mokuhinia. Kiha is waiting to open her arms and give the blessing and the purification of Lahaina so that Malu'ulu Olele will grow and the protection of these ulu trees will grow once again so that Lahaina's land can flourish as it did in time past. And so the happiness of our children may grow in multitude. And may the future of Lahaina prosper so that the whole world can see how the Kanaka Maole can heal their lands with what is there already.
What would you say is the overall message that the west side of Maui and Lahaina residents want the world to know right now?
The people is strong. The people know what is right for Lahaina. The people know how to make pono happen in Lahaina. The people have come together as one. Lahaina knows, they don't think it, they know it, how to heal their lands. The people know how to share the waters equally. The people already know greed is not the answer for survival and for life sustaining. What greed brings is heva, and that kind of destruction that infects those that noho in those lands where it is getting infected. Lahaina people will not give up on their lands.
No leila, mahalo anui ia oi e Vicky, mahalo anui no ko ho'omanawa nui ana mai ke ia nina wele, a mahalo no kikipa ana mai a mako. Mahalo.
There are 5 main reasons we are involved with the United Nations. One is to make certain that UN members, agencies, and organisms are aware of the United States' claim of sovereignty and its presence in Hawaii represent multiple flagrant violations of the UN Charter and international laws. 2, to urge the United Nations General Assembly to review a resolution they passed in 1959 that mistakenly consigned Hawaii to the United States as a domestic state. This error by the UN General Assembly is what blocks us from asserting our rights as a sovereign nation in continuity. Once a formal review uncovers the error, the UN would be obliged to rescind the resolution and nullify the United States' claim to Hawaii. Number 3, to eventually convince the UN General Assembly to censure the United States for violations of UN mandates with respect to Hawaii, and to utilize aspects of the UN system to cause the US to concede Hawaii's right to assert our independence. Number 4, to gain access to member states of the UN, 193 countries, to enlist their participation in engendering a treaty of peace between the U.S. and the Hawaiian Kingdom, and to request their aid in rebuilding our nation. And 5, to partner with and assist other unrepresented nations and peoples petitioning the UN with aspirations for independence. We are not at the UN to seek recognition from the UN or to join the UN. We are there to petition the UN to bring one of its key members, the United States of America, into compliance with UN mandates and international laws and standards regarding wrongful acts by the United States against Hawaii and its people. The UN has 2 major headquarters. The one in New York that most people picture when the UN is mentioned. There, the General Assembly of all the nations meets and its numerous committees carry on their work. It is also the place where the UN Security Council meets. The 193 member countries have missions or diplomatic offices and their representatives, an ambassador and his staff, in the vicinity of the UN headquarters. There are also numerous offices of NGOs, non-governing organizations, in the vicinity. Mostly political matters are discussed at the UN in New York. For the past 10 years, I have worked out of an office at 777 United Nations Plaza, directly across the street from the main UN building. I'm in New York about 4 times a year for meetings with UN committees, NGOs, and the ambassadors at their missions of countries empathetic to our cause. Ultimately, it is the General Assembly in New York that we expect to act on our behalf. The other major headquarters of the UN is in the city of Geneva in Switzerland. It is a much larger facility that houses the human rights operations of the UN. The main campus, the Palais des Nations, houses the meetings of the Human Rights Council, the Human Rights Committee, and numerous other human rights operations. There are other large UN organizations based in Geneva, such as the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, the World International Properties Organization, the International Labor Organization, and so on and so forth. In Geneva, we have several platforms, such as the Human Rights Council, where we can make our statements and reports of the U.S. violations of our human rights that result in resolutions and statements that actually support our position. The numerous statements that we have made in panels and interventions at these human rights bodies have had a cumulative effect in gaining attention, resulting in actual resolutions calling for action. We have also been successful in Geneva in gaining the attention of the world's press. We have had numerous situations in newspapers and magazines throughout Europe and Asia. I have here, this is a copy of Diva International Diplomat, a magazine published at the UN in Geneva. In this issue, there was a human rights a story that featured me as part of it, and the story is called "The Situation of the Hawaiian Kingdom: A Nation in Continuity." So this particular magazine was published in September, in the month when I was in Geneva, and this was very helpful because every diplomat and every NGO group was aware of the fact that we had this story about Hawaii being a sovereign nation in continuity. And so when I spoke at the various opportunities I had to speak there at the different panels and giving interventions, this was already in their mind. Now, this is not the first time that Diva International Diplomat has published it. We also had something published back in on the 175th anniversary of La Ku'okoa, 175 years of independence. So this was another article that was published by this magazine Diva International. This is not the only publication that has had very major stories about our situation in Hawaii. There have been many throughout Europe, many countries that have published stories about our aspirations to restore the Hawaiian Kingdom as a sovereign independent country. So now at the UN in Geneva, there have been many who've gone before me who contributed to laying the groundwork and building our credibility as a nation in continuity. In the 1970s, the first person who went to Geneva to raise our cause was the consummate activist Kawai Puna Prejin. He was there with the leaders of AIM, the American Indian Movement, and together, along with indigenous peoples from Alaska, Central, and South America, they pushed for an indigenous people's voice at the UN. Prior to this, the UN had no platform or ability or way that indigenous peoples could address what has gone on. But around the time that Kawai Puna and AIM and the others went there, the ravages of colonialism was just being talked about, and who better to speak than the indigenous peoples? So over the years, Hawaiians contributed to building that indigenous voice at the human rights mechanisms in Geneva. Hawaiians like Poka Lainui, Kekuni Blaisdell, Bumpy Kanahele, Kekula Bray, Mililani Trask, Lili Kala Kame'elehiva, Kaiopua Fife, to name a few, were there advocating for Hawaii's situation. Their work resulted in the United Nations General Assembly's creation of the Permanent Forum for Indigenous Issues that meets in New York, and the Human Rights Council's expert mechanism on the rights of indigenous peoples. These organizations and the efforts that they put forward resulted in the UN General Assembly's adoption of the landmark Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in 2007. So initially, when I started out at the UN about over 15 years ago, our emphasis was on indigenous rights, which, as I mentioned, resulted in all of these advances for indigenous rights. But we soon switched to asserting our rights as a sovereign independent nation, not as indigenous people. And that is what we have been asserting, our sovereign rights as an independent nation under international law, rather than under domestic law. After all, the Hawaiian Kingdom was already a sovereign independent state, formally recognized by all the great powers until the United States backed coup d'etat in 1893. As I stated in the beginning of this segment, today we are actively engaged in pressing the issue that the Hawaiian Kingdom is a sovereign independent country in continuity, and the nations of the world are beginning to agree with us. When I first started attending them, the people used to say to us, when they heard our story, they used to say, that's really interesting. We wish you all the luck. Good luck with what you're trying to do. But after several years went by, they started to get more interested and started to say, do you really think this could happen? Could Hawaii really be restored as a sovereign independent country? So they started to maybe get the idea, maybe there's something to what we're saying. But recently, over the last 5 years or so, we actually have had countries say to us, how do you think we can help? So we've made a huge amount of progress from good luck to how do you think we can help? So this is where we are today. We're at the point of working with these countries who are willing to help us.
I believe in us watching the video of our West Maui community coming to rally at the Capitol and to take their sentiments to the governor's office. That was yet another touching moment and moving sentiments that are coming from especially our one Aloha Aina leader, our young leader, who is putting a voice out there on behalf of the community. And he's actually speaking to things that our people have veiled for a long time. When I say veiled, I mean that our people do really realize that there's a great divide, and that divide is in the inequity between the truths and the realities of visitors and how often uninformed visitors tend to be when they come to our shores, and how we treat and react to or engage with foreigners, no matter where they come from, continental US, other countries. I'd probably say especially continental US, because that's whom we have such great contact with. And those are some of the most demanding and pushy and aggressive of visitors. But overall, the place that we know we need to be in internally to receive people, to accommodate them, and to be generous, giving, loving, that's our rightful culture. But now, what we're really required to do is to suck up our feelings and keep a stiff upper lip and try not to fall to pieces, because we have to put on the show again.
Mm-hmm.
That's really our reality. So that's what I mean when I said our people have veiled this for a long time. We've gotten away with not talking about the many elephants in the spaces and places of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
These unseen elephants that are incredibly enormous, but yet now it's coming to a head, and the West Maui fires have revealed everything. We've revealed just how precariously perched our people have been. Always pushed, but our people will suck it up. And always challenged to smile. Challenged to remember that this is our economy. Challenged, we remember we have to pay bills. Challenged because we have to eat and feed our families. But now our people are spent. Our people are mentally, emotionally, spiritually exhausted, blasted. Our island people have veiled some strong underpinning sentiments when it comes to tourism and serving tourists. On one hand, our people are genuinely kind, loving, and giving in most normal contexts. And our people will go to work and be very friendly, very welcoming, and accommodating to guests, because that's our way. But when guests bring out the best of the worst of guests, and when foreigners are truly their best, worst self, that come into conflict with who we are as a people, when people are pushy and demanding, and people are entitled, when people visit from far away and think that islanders and island life should reflect where they come from, and how responsive and how quick something should be. I want my food faster. I want this. Well, I want that. Those things start to push people's buttons. They trigger people. And, you know, our people veil this. We come home, we talk about it, we vent, but our people veil it because we do understand how reliant our economy is on tourism. But now, the West Maui fires have brought it to a head. And I think it reveals all of the seemingly invisible elephants that have occupied our rooms and our spaces and places. And our people are no longer able to sequester away these suppressed feelings about how much we have to sacrifice. Hawaii has become so commodified. Every element of what truly is aloha and our culture and our islands have become such a commodity that the integrity of who we are, the integrity and dignity of how we really should be, is now challenged. And I don't think that our political leadership and the different ethnicities that lead truly understand. This should be a wake-up call. If we stepped up away from the fire and the disaster and Maui, and we look above the weeds of life right now, this is a wake-up call. This entire situation, how it's being handled. Our island people, especially our Kanaka, whether we like this system or not, whether we agree with this system or not, life as it is right now is being handled in the manner that it is because of the people who run the show. So whether we like it or not, one of our people should be there in that position to be governor, to hold every last position of power, to hold every last position of leadership. And that way, when you look at how to handle things, we might have a different way.
Mahalo nui loa for joining us for this episode of Free Hawaii News. We want to thank all of our guests and for all of the people who have made this episode possible. Aloha.
Ai no laila e kia naina o koi kipa mai nei. Mahalo anui no ka okoho manawa nui e no ka koi koho pena o heia papahana no ke yahiahi nei. Mahalo anui o ko e koha vai I nei pai aina puni. Ahui ho kako.
Aloha.
We hope you enjoyed this month's episode of Free Hawaii News. Mahalo for watching. There's a new show every month, so this program will air several more times this month. You can view it anytime on Olelo's on-demand site or on YouTube. See you next time. Ahui ho, aloha aina.
Free Hawaii Broadcasting Network.